everybody, happy Wednesday. As you all probably know, it is Top 5 Wednesday, and today's topic is the top 5 books I read in one sitting. Top 5 Wednesday, as well as the Goodreads group, was created by Lainey, and I will link her channel down below. So I kind of had a little bit of a problem getting 5 books for today that I had read in one sitting, because I personally don't read very fast, and I don't really like to. I really like, when I read, I like taking my sweet time. I look up every word that I don't know. If there's something in there that reminds me of something else, I'll go look it up. I get distracted easily. I annotate all my books that I read. So usually, on average, it takes me longer than the average person to get through an entire book. As well as that, I kind of have book ADD, and I will be reading for 30 minutes and then just not be able to sit down anymore. I'll go do something for another 2 hours, then come back to a book. So generally, I tend not to read books in one sitting, but I did manage to find 4 books today that I've read in one sitting, and then one that I read in 2. So that'll have to do. The first book I read in one sitting is Doomed by Chuck Palahniuk. It is the second book in the Damned series, which I believe is going to be a trilogy eventually, but for now it's just the 2 books. There are a lot of mixed reviews for Damned by Chuck. It's regarded as kind of one of his not as good novels as the rest of them. It's kind of at the bottom rung, but I, for some reason, just love it. I absolutely adore it. It's about, I believe she's 13, a 13-year-old girl, and kind of her encounter with death and the devil, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it for some reason. So of course when Doom came out, I had it pre-ordered, and as soon as I went to Chapters to pick it up, I sat down and I just read it until I was done at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait until the next novel comes out. Next is probably one of my most mentioned books, and that is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is of course one of my all-time favorite books, and I read it almost on a yearly basis, and it only takes me one sitting to read it because I absolutely love it. It's just the smoothest read, and I mean, because I've read it so much, I think that I just fly through it. But even my first encounter with it, I was really young. I was an early reader, and I still just flew through it in one sitting. I absolutely adore this book. Next on my list is Only Apparently Real: The World of Philip K. Dick. It is a biography about Philip K. Dick that is done by Paul Williams, who was a friend of Philip K. Dick, and I believe the executor of his estate once PKD passed away. Philip K. Dick is one of my favorite authors, and it's not only because of his books, but how his life ties into his books. The first Philip K. Dick book I read, I really enjoyed, and the few after that I really enjoyed as well. But when it came to grade 12 and I had to do a project on an author and the author's life, I picked Philip K. Dick because I really enjoyed his books. And after that project, I just completely fell in love with him and his work. And that has a lot to do with how reoccurring themes in his books have a lot to do with his actual life. He was a very heavy drug user, and this book kind of goes over like before he started doing drugs and his writing, and how it changed to after. It goes over some like really interesting themes about reoccurring things in his novels, like a phantom twin, a dark-haired girl, things like that. Really, once you know about them and you know about the life that he lived and how he incorporated that into his books, and how his books are about challenging reality, and how that very much had a lot to do with the life he lived and the things he had gone through, that just completely made me fall head over heels with Philip K. Dick and his writing. Speaking of Philip K. Dick, the next book on my list is The Cosmic Puppets by him. It is a fairly short book, but it went by so quickly. It took me most of a day to read because it is pretty dense writing, but it just flew by because this is such an enticing and enthralling book, and it just kept my attention from beginning to finish. It is about a man who, after leaving his hometown, decides to return, but upon returning, everything has completely changed. All the stores he once knew were gone, all the people he knew were gone, and he finds out, looking into the history of the town, that he has died in this town's records about 20 years earlier. That's not a spoiler, that's in the synopsis, but things kind of unwind from there, and he tries to figure out what happened, and it's just a really enticing, submersive read. Next on my list is The Enchanted by Renee Denfield. This is definitely one of my favorite reads of 2015 so far. I didn't read it in one sitting, I read it in two, but that's only because I had to go to work halfway through the first sitting, so otherwise I think I probably would have. I've talked about this before. It's a book that follows a prison, and there's a prisoner narrating about this lady who tries to get prisoners off of death row. It kind of has hints of magical realism. It's really interesting, kind of an unreliable narrator type of thing. It goes and goes and goes and goes, and every part that unravels is just as interesting as the last. So really, it takes no time at all just to get to the end of the book, and once it's there, you're like, wow, I want 5,000 times more of this. So, you amazing people, that is my top 5 books that I have read in one sitting or 2 sittings. I hope you check out most of these books. They're all really good. Highly recommend them. If you have any questions for me about the books I mentioned or books related to the books I mentioned, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below, as well as what your top 5 favorite reads are if you didn't make a video on it. You can find me on Goodreads and Twitter. I will link down below. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!